First, let me say how happy I am to be here this evening for the opportunity to meet Singaporeans working or studying or living here in New York. I'd like also to acknowledge the non-Singaporeans, friends of Singapore, who are here with us this evening. It is a pleasure to meet Singaporeans as they gather in different configurations in different parts of the world. Invariably, it's over food, because somehow food is a very important part of our culture and our self-identification. I think nothing wrong with that. But it's interesting how the global Singapore network is evolving. You'll be surprised how much Singapore is being held up as a model in obscure corners of the world. Formerly as Trade Minister and now as Foreign Minister, I would meet my counterparts from the Caribbean, from Africa, from the Middle East, and completely surprised that they know so much about Singapore. When I was in Libya 2 years ago, Gaddafi's son told me, he hosted me there, that his father was quoting Lee Kuan Yew. And do you know that Lee Kuan Yew's books have been translated into all the world's major languages, including Russian and Hungarian. And today, the Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister told me that the Ukrainian version is all ready to be launched. And later this year, the Spanish and Portuguese versions will also be launched. This afternoon, I met the Foreign Minister of San Tome and Principe, which are two small islands in the Gulf of Guinea in the South Atlantic. And the Foreign Minister told me that they want to be like a Singapore, exploiting all the development taking place around them, and asking us whether it could be helpful. I said, no, we're in no position to help you because we do not know the circumstances there. But naturally, you're free to come to Singapore and to study what we do and decide for yourself the areas in which you might find useful for your own purposes. Then they said, oh, I've read carefully Lee Kuan Yew's books. And I hear this again and again in different parts of the world. It's not so much in Lee Kuan Yew the man as in the idea of Singapore as a system of governance. A practical people concentrating on the basics, creating a public administration which is probably the most effective of any country around the world. And as countries search for their own way forward, they'll cast around for models to study, and invariably Singapore will be one of them. Even in Kazakhstan, around Nazarbayev, a group of very senior people who have studied us in detail. And sometimes meeting some of these foreigners, I get very uncomfortable because they seem to know so much about us when we know so little about them. Question is, with this goodwill, with this reputation, how do we convert it to economic value? How do we turn it into an asset on our balance sheet? If people would just read Lee Kuan Yew's book or to visit Singapore, so okay, we get some goodwill, which is good for the foreign ministry, but it doesn't translate into a real advantage for Singaporeans. For it to translate the real advantage for Singaporeans, there has to be a Singapore network which captures this advantage, which expresses the ideas and ideals. And whether it is Shanghai or whether it is in Panama or New York or Rio de Janeiro, there are groups of Singaporeans who do good work, who gather together from time to time to meet, to chit-chat, a gathering of the clan as it were. They are the ones who are able to gradually to convert our international reputation into something valuable, something important for all Singaporeans. And in different ways, you who are here are adding to that. I mention this because if you think about this more consciously, you'll be able to get more out of this network. And in getting more out of this network, I think you contribute more to it. And this indeed is a network effect which people talk about and write about. So from just a point, we are spreading out, sometimes to very obscure corners of the world. With technology now, linking up the network is no longer difficult. It's done in real time. It's done through messaging, through Facebook, through the internet. The key is how do we organize ourselves, and we can do it well. I think our future will have no limit. Thank you.